it's Rebecca, and this time last week, and I cannot believe it was a week ago, a couple of friends and I were on our way to Chipping Norton Literary Festival. I went last year with Jane and Tony, Jane being my other half of the Wordy Birds and her partner Tony, and I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to go again this year. So we went this year and we met up with our lovely friend Annie, who we met last year at Norg. Oh, so many people. And had an absolutely brilliant time again. I can't really describe how good this festival is. It's something about the atmosphere of the town. I'd never even heard of Chipping Norton until a couple of years ago when my friends went to the festival. And it's a really tiny little town, really interesting architecture of all the buildings, has modern things in there. So there's a Boots and there's a Costa Coffee and you know, various shops and the Sainsbury's and all that kind of stuff. But the surroundings are just so beautiful, and the countryside around it is just so beautiful, and the people are so friendly and nice, and the whole town comes together for this festival, and it just blows my mind. So after having so much fun last year, I wanted to go back this year. And the great thing is they have authors that you've heard of and authors that you haven't heard of, but it all sounds really interesting. And the one frustrating thing I think about the festival is there are too many things going on at once. So if I have a complaint, it says too much, because you can't go to everything. So organisers, if you're listening, stop having so much good stuff going on. It's tough to make a choice. So you choose what you want to go to, you buy your tickets in advance, and you go to the things. And if you've got nothing going on, you can sit in the coffee shop, you can wander around the bookshop, you can wander around the town, and everything is just so full of festivalness. So again, like last year, I need my little book to remind me of all the great things that I did, because it was just so super mad crazy. Oh, and of course, we can't forget that at a book festival, and I'm even struggling to hold this up, I did manage to buy 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or more books that are all here in my brilliant Chiplet Fest bag. So I will, oh, I'm so not strong, show you what I've got and tell you what I went to see. So the first author that we went to see on the Friday evening, so we arrived Friday afternoon, met up with Annie. I can't remember if we had some dinner first. I can't remember what we did. We ate an awful lot as well. Some really nice restaurants and pubs in Chipping Norton too, which was really frustrating because, oh, just so much good stuff. Anywho, so the first author that we went to see was Claire Mackintosh, and Jane has already met Claire Mackintosh at something else. She knows her anyway, but she was really, really interesting. Really enjoyed that, and I had to buy both of Claire's books. So we've got I Let You Go and I See You. I'm not really sure what they're about. They kind of sound mysterious and dark and interesting and that kind of thing. I think I picked this one up from the library second-hand, but when you're going to see an author, you ask them very nicely to put your name and their name in the front of the books, because, you know, that's what you do. So having signed copies is just slightly more exciting than having just the book without any signatures in it. So picked up those 2, and after Claire's talk, Jane and I asked if we could interview her for our radio show. So we found a quiet little spot and set up the video camera and asked her some questions. So once I've got a few 5 minutes spare, I'm going to edit all the interviews, and we will be playing them on our radio show and also on our Wordy Birds YouTube channel. So I will leave all links down below so that you can find the Wordy Birds, because if you like books and anything bookish, that's why you're here listening to me, you will like the Wordy Birds. So I will leave all that for you. So you can hear Claire's interview, and I will read these books at some point. I don't know when, but you know me, I will read them. So on Saturday is the busiest day. I don't think I stopped at all on Saturday, and just need the thing to remember. So the first thing that we went to see, well, Jane, Annie and myself, we went to see something called New Voices 2017, and that was with 3 authors, Abir Mukherjee, Harriet Cummings and Will Menmuir. I do apologise, Will, your name is very strangely spelt and I can't pronounce it, so Menmuir. Anyway, I hope I've got it right. But we went to see those 3 authors, and they were new authors, either just having their books recently published or kind of within the last few months. and they were thoroughly interesting. I really like listening to new authors because that's where I'm going to be one day. I want to be that excited new author that's just written a book and just wants to tell everybody about it. And they were absolutely lovely. I didn't buy all of the books, although very, very tempting, because not everything interests me, and that's nothing personal against the authors that I didn't buy books from. Just certain things interest me, certain things don't interest me. So again, nothing personal, just what kind of sparked a little bit of interest. So I did buy Harriet Cummings' book, and it's called We All Begin as Strangers, and this one just sounded interesting because it's set in the 1980s, so I'm going to kind of read it and absorb the 1980s language and behaviours and all that kind of stuff to help me with my writing, because I'm writing something set in the 80s. And it just sounded really interesting, kind of how you don't really know the people that you live next door to and the people that live in your town or your village. Are they who they say they are? So that just sounded really, really fascinating on a couple of levels. So that was really good. And obviously she signed it for me as well. And then afterwards, which was really, really good of them, they'd just come off stage after an hour's worth of interviewing for the festival. And they did come and sit with Jane and I for a little while we interviewed them for the radio show. So again, listen out. We will be posting it on YouTube and playing it on the radio. So that was very exciting as well. And then after that, myself and Annie went to see Bryony Gordon talk about her book Mad Girl, and I think people like Bryony Gordon are absolutely brilliant because they're bringing mental health and mental health issues to the forefront of life. So many people suffer with mental health issues, but still we're afraid to talk about it, and still it's almost like, oh, you're a bit of a nutter, oh, are you going to murder me, are you a psychopath? There's so much on the spectrum of mental health and people still don't talk about it, and Bryony Gordon talking about her OCD, and this book is about mental health and dealing with it and how it doesn't have to take over your life. Yes, we may have something going on in our heads that we don't understand and that we can't really control, but we can get through life without it being a burden on us. And so I was really pleased to listen to somebody talk about mental health with such openness and such kind of, it doesn't matter, rather than kind of being embarrassed or ashamed. It was just like, this is part of me, this is what happens. And something absolutely brilliant happened during that talk. At the end, there's always a chance for questions. And a young man put his hand up and he asked if he could read a poem that he'd written because he'd just recently tried to kill himself. And it was this just absolutely beautiful poem. The whole room was in floods of tears because we just don't know to what degree somebody is suffering, and trying to kill yourself is that extreme, I can't cope with this is just too much. And if we were more open about it and talked about it more, fewer people would try to kill themselves because they would know that there's an outlet for them, or that there's somewhere to go, or a refuge for help. And it was absolutely brilliant. And I think, like I say, being able to talk about mental health and being open about it is just absolutely brilliant. So really, really enjoyed that talk, and obviously did buy her book. So this is Mad Girl by Bryony Gordon, and I will be reading this because, like I say, mental health is a really big thing, and I'm glad that somebody is open about the whole issue. And then, barely even getting kind of 5 minutes to have something to eat, we sat down in a cafe and then just had to run out. We didn't even get a chance to have any lunch because our next talk was Unbroken Voices with Julie Mayhew, Keith Stewart and Kit DeWall. Oh, my pronunciation is terrible, I do apologise. And these were authors who were speaking about young people and the issues that teenagers, children kind of face. And Kit DeWall was talking about going into foster care and how you kind of struggle with family breakdowns. Keith has a son with autism, and his book Fiction was kind of based on his son's the way his son deals with life and gets through with autism. And Julie, her book didn't interest me when I picked it up off the shelf, and I wasn't going to buy it, but she read a snippet out and it was really good. It was really, really gripping. It was about a girl going into Russia and a strange man trying to take her from the train station and get her into his car. And it was just so frightening. It was really frightening and haunting, and so beautifully written. To write something so beautiful about a subject that's quite disturbing was absolutely brilliant. So I did end up having to buy her book. And she briefly mentioned another one that was something along the lines of if Nazi Germany existed now and we were living under the Nazi regime, which I just found really, really fascinating. So yes, had to buy a few more books. So Kit de Wail's book is called My Name is Leon, and again that just sounded really interesting, and it also set in the 80s, so that just really kind of piqued my interest. And these by Julie Mayhew. So Mother Tongue was the one that she was mainly talking about and that she read from, and like I said, it just the blurb didn't really grab me, but when she read out a bit of it I just thought that sounds really, really good, so I'm looking forward to that one. And this is the other one, The Big Lie, again by Julie Mayhew, which is about the Nazis still existing now, so really fascinated by these books. And then I think I got a little bit of time. I don't think I had anything in the afternoon, so I did have a wander around Chipping Norton. It's so beautiful. There's lovely countryside and it's really quiet and it's out of the way, and it was just really, really lovely, so I went for a bit of a wander. And then in the evening, oh my goodness, we as in myself, Jane and Tony, saw Selena Godden, and she is a spoken word performance poet and was just so brilliantly mad and funny and outlandish, and just had such a good time. Just absolutely lovely lady, had a really big grin on my face the whole time. She just writes really hard cutting poetry and stories from her childhood and things she's experienced throughout her life, and it was just really, really fun evening. And we managed to get hold of her on the Sunday morning, although she was a little bit hungover, for an interview, which was absolutely brilliant. We learned loads about kind of what she likes to do and her inspiration and all that kind of stuff. So again, that will be played out on the radio show and on our Wordy Birds YouTube channel. But I had to buy her book, which is called Springfield Road. And from what I can gather, this is just loads of stuff from her childhood. And I really enjoy reading about people's childhoods, because childhood shapes you and what you do and how you think and how you behave and all that kind of stuff. And it just really fascinates me, and especially as it's poetry as well. I really, really like poetry. I don't read enough of it and I don't watch enough of it. Oh, and Selena will be at Norwich, which is really exciting. So Jane, Tony and I are going to go and see her on her tour starting off in Norwich next week, so that's really, really exciting as well. So looking forward to reading that and going to see her again. And then in the evening it's the Chiplet quiz, which is hosted by author Mark Billingham. And last year I kept looking at Mark Billingham thinking, why do I know you? Why do I know you? And it's because he is in a children's programme that I used to watch, and it's called Maid Marian and Her Merry Men, and Tony Robinson wrote it, and he was one of the bad guys in it, but he just had a face that I remembered, and I couldn't remember where it was from, but I found out that he's a big crime author as well, which I didn't know. I just knew him from children's television. But the quiz is so much fun. You get free beer, and you're in a room with all these authors and these brilliant minds, and we didn't lose. We came somewhere in the middle. We got something like 53 out of 100 or something, which isn't bad when you're in a room full of people who live their lives in books. I mean, I read and I work with books, but these people are hardcore book junkies. So that was so much fun, had a really, really good time there. And then Sunday was a very quiet day. In the morning, Jane and I went to see Jo Unwin, who is a literary agent, and it was called How to Sparkle in the Slush, and it was just a talk on what to do when you're sending off your manuscript and writing your cover letter and your synopsis and all that frightening stuff when you've actually finished writing your book, and how to kind of move forward with your writing. So that was really interesting as well. And then the highlight, so last year we had big booming Brian Blessed. This year it was Tony Robinson, and I'm a fan of Time Team, I'm a bit of a nerd, and a fan of Blackadder and Maid Marian and all of the brilliant things that he'd done, and he was so funny, and he really was pushing for children to study and learn and read and gain knowledge, and just he's such a brilliant man, and Jane and I spoke to him afterwards, and he's so nice, but he's about 2 foot tall, so we had a picture taken and I'm head and shoulders and knees and toes above him, which is quite weird because you don't realise how tall or small somebody is until you actually meet them face to face. But he was a really, really nice man and really, really enjoyed his talk. And again, bought some books. So the main book he was talking about is called No Cunning Plan, which is his autobiography, and it's quite big. But I will get round to reading at some point, even though I'm not very good at big books, but I will probably just stick a bookmark in and read a chapter every now and then. And the other one was Tony Robinson's The Worst Children's Jobs in History, which I really like. I really like funny history books. I like the horrible histories, things that tell you about the past but aren't really heavy and dull and boring, that kind of bring a little bit of life to it. So it's all the jobs that children had to do in the past, which is just really, really good. And there's some funny pictures and whatever in there. So looking forward to reading that one. So in total, I bought 10 books, which I can't remember how many I bought last year. I really don't know. But it was a really fun weekend. I didn't want to leave. There's almost a little bit of mourning leaving that festival. It takes you out of normality and puts you somewhere. It's almost like a fantasy where everything is just about books and writing and authors and fun stuff, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm absolutely shattered. I think I've only just caught up on my sleep, and it's been a week, and I'm just so tired, but I don't care. I had a really good time. I bought loads of books, met loads of really nice people, caught up with old friends. Just a really, really good time. So thank you very much, Chipping Norton. I will see you next year, because you keep impressing me and I want to be a part of it. So I will see you next year, Chipping Norton, and everybody else, I will see you soon. Have a good day.